Everyone. I'm Bridget Harper. I am the VP of Customer Success here at ClearlyRated. I'm really excited about this topic today. As we're in Women's History Month, how can we shed the light of really how women are doing? How are women doing? The question maybe I ask myself, how am I doing today? And maybe check in on each other. A little bit of housekeeping as we launch into some data that we've pulled together, but really this topic about attracting, retaining, and engaging top performers at your firm, I think we're all going to walk away with some really great tidbits, some strategies, and insights from some real powerful examples of great women in leadership that we have as panelists. This whole webinar will get recorded and shared after. You also have an opportunity to ask questions. We have a chat that's open. And one of the things that I love that Leslie does on all of her webinars is she shares LinkedIn. So you can network your own LinkedIn profile. So I've shared all of the panelists' LinkedIn profiles in the chat. It's a great opportunity to be able to network, meet others. So if you feel comfortable, I would go ahead and encourage you to add that into the chat and kick off some of these networking activities. So as I look at our panelists, we have so many wonderful panelists here. I'm gonna actually now redo my chat to everyone. I love how I'm still learning technology after working remote for 5 years. It's totally
All
fine.
good, Bridget. I don't know why it defaults to panelists and hosts. I do it all the time.
You're like, yeah, did I do know my own LinkedIn? Oh, yeah, yes, you do. So as we go around this wonderful room, I am so excited to introduce Robin Mee. She is the CEO and founder at MeeDerby, an award-winning search firm for the staffing and workforce solutions ecosystem. She is a passionate advocate of staffing. She's a volunteer industry leader, and she is a regular speaker at staffing events nationally. Robin is on the board of directors of the American Staffing Association. She is in the Staffing Industry Analysts Leadership Hall of Fame and on their Global Women's Power 150 lists since its inception in 2015. That is a very impressive recognition. I mean, way to go, Robin. She is a vocal supporter of women in leadership and issues of diversity and inclusion, exemplified by MeeDerby's sponsorship of ASA's Women in Leadership Interest Group and Women of Color in Staffing. Robin is also a co-author with 14 other women staffing leaders of Together We Rise. It is honestly such a fantastic book. I have a copy. I have read it. It's available on Amazon, so you can go and buy it. It's very easy. Or, if you love this session at the very end, chat me. I will send you a copy. So those proceeds, really the initial proceeds of that book, are funding ASA scholarships in support of rising females. It is a huge effort. So that book, really good, really inspirational. And I can say that because I read it. So welcome to the webinar, Robin. As we dive into this data regarding women in staffing, in your perspective, what has been a positive change that you've seen regarding women in staffing over the past year? Like, really want to kick this off on a positive note. So.
Well, thank you, Bridget, and thank you, ClearlyRated, and of course, my panelists here. Okay, so what's happened in the last year? So SIA does a really good job of promoting women as they are elevating into leadership roles or changing in leadership roles. And so MeeDerby has kind of jumped on that bandwagon. And every time we see a woman who has been promoted or elevated, we put it out there on social media and we shout it out, and it has created this wonderful, additional community of people, men and women, like getting so excited to see women elevating. And so, we're going to dive into some data here, and we're going to see the reality of women in leadership and staffing. But I'm anecdotally going to put it out there that I think over the next couple of years, we're going to see more women in leadership roles, and we are going to do a great job of continuing to highlight their accomplishments.
Oh, Yes, I think the momentum is in our favor, so we will just we're going to keep going in that direction. Fully agree. Love that. Thank you, Robin. Next, it is my pleasure to introduce Leslie Vickrey, the CEO and founder of ClearEdge, which is a marketing and communications agency dedicated to helping talent-focused organizations tell their story, stand out, and grow. So Leslie is not only an accomplished entrepreneur and marketing leader with more than 20 years of experience, but she's also a passionate advocate for women in business and technology. So Leslie's insights just on marketing strategy, brand differentiation, and diversity have made her a very sought after speaker. She's a trusted advisor, respected thought leader across industries. I mean, have I also mentioned yet that she's one of those co-authors along with Robin in Together We Rise? It's because she's there as well. And speaking of rising, ClearEdge Rising, look into this. It's all about celebrating women in leadership. It's offering community, coaching, and workshops for women looking to excel in leadership and for companies looking to increase leadership diversity. I have been lucky enough to have women on my team participate in this program. I highly recommend it if you haven't checked it out. It really is doing all of the things that we're trying to really encourage and promote here. So join me in welcoming Leslie. And Leslie, what has been one of the biggest surprises you've had in launching the Rising program?
Oh my gosh. Wow. That was quite the introduction. Thank you. I'd like to take you with me anytime I'm being introduced. I love it. And thank you. I just want to say thank you to ClearlyRated as well for hosting this timely webinar and recognizing Women's History Month and the survey and the best firms for women to work for and staffing, all the things. So thank you. Thank you. I love this question because I'm so passionate about what we're doing. And honestly, one of the biggest surprises was just how powerful the peer connections were and really knowing how important community would be. I kind of underestimated that a little bit, Bridget, with the depth of trust and vulnerability and transformation that happens when women are surrounded by others who I would say really get what they're going through. So we've seen Rising really go beyond skill building, and it's important for women to really step confidently into their roles as leaders and teammates and employees. And people are seeing that they're making a visible impact. You said it earlier, you've seen it with people on your team too. The teams feel it, the business feels it. And maybe I think one of the most important things is I believe truly that for the women in the program, it's redefining their own vision for what's possible with their careers and helping them rise up. And Robin, I put it in the chat, but thank you, thank you, thank you for highlighting the women as they're getting promoted. It is such a nice touch and great to see those rising up. And for me, I have to say, and I'll just close it out by saying it is so humbling and energizing just to hear women come out of the program and say that it has changed how they see themselves as a leader, and that it's not just, helping with the leadership skills, it's really creating these circles of support that women have said, I'm not just saying that this is what they say to us, it's truly career and life changing. And that means the world to me. So thank you. And thank you again for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Oh, we are the lucky ones. It's, when you start to digest, like, how do you intro? And when you have three incredible women on this panel, I almost did a little too deep diving into each of your profiles. Like, how are they doing this? Do you all sleep at any point? It's impressive. So I would have to say that networking piece, being able to collaborate with peers, is so powerful, which is why tossing in your LinkedIn, start to build up that network and get so many great ideas from those that are experiencing some of the same things as you, and also learning about those that are not experiencing the same thing as you. It is incredibly insightful. So look into all of these things, folks, right at your fingertips. Thank goodness for the internet and searching. So our last panelist, I'm really excited to introduce Michelle Sims. She is the CEO of YUPRO Placement, which is a mission-driven placement firm dedicated to creating pathways to upward economic mobility for traditionally underrepresented talent. Under Michelle's leadership, YUPRO Placement has become a national leader in skills-first hiring, partnering with forward-thinking employers to connect them with skilled, career-ready talent from more than 50 workforce development programs across the country. Michelle is bringing in more than 2 decades of experience in talent strategy and workforce development, and her passion for building inclusive hiring practices has made her a very respected voice in our industry. She has been recognized for her visionary leadership, driving measurable impact for both employers and job seekers, while championing equity and opportunity at every turn. So congratulations is also in order, as YUPRO Placement was recognized this week as one of those best staying firm for women award winner. So congratulations, Michelle, and welcome, as you are a leading firm for women. What would you describe as one of the largest benefits of having a diverse workforce?
Well, thank you. And thank you, ClearlyRated. I need to add the logo here. So we certainly appreciate the survey and really glad to be here and everybody that's joining. So thank you. I would say we're seeing diversity play out. It comes in many shapes and sizes. And, you shared a mouthful. What we do is, has diversity at its core. And so it's certainly near and dear to my heart, to what we're hearing, and what we're all talking about. I think that companies have to decide what their diversity definition is for them. For us at YUPRO Placement, it's ensuring that our team has the ability to understand and connect with our talent community. And our talent community is, they have skills that they've built through non-traditional pathways. They're from nonprofit organizations across the country. And they typically don't have 4-year degrees. And so we're constantly championing corporate America, breaking down barriers to entry and building equity in job opportunities so that skills and potential shine through. Without the proxies, without past job titles, because there's no study that tells us that a job title or degree after 9 months of service, you perform better in a job. And so if we can really build equity from skills and potential, then what we're doing is creating a broader and more diverse candidate pool for every organization, right? And so companies that are doing this, you ask the benefit, you have higher retention rates, you're building trust, you have loyalty. I mean, these are things that sometimes are qualitative, but folks can see at the bottom line when you reduce turnover because you are building trust in your workplace through a broader candidate pool and you are promoting even within based on skills. Then you're also, as a leader, building transparency and trust throughout your organization. And so I think the biggest benefit, I believe, is building a culture by design and not by default. Because as a leader, what you do and what you execute and your actions speak louder than words, because that's what people pay attention to. So the women in our organization and our allies and men too, they see the intentions behind our decisions, and that's what builds trust. And that's what I think is, why we're here.
Ooh, really, I mean, building trust and setting this for yourself. I really like don't be the default. Really does help not only strengthen your mission, your vision, what you want to achieve for your own company, but for your customers and your clients and the talent that we're placing. It reaches far-reaching. So really,
Right.
This is where we've got such strong leaders that this. I'm almost upset that this webinar is only for an hour, but they also have 3 other webinars that they're doing after this because they are thought out speakers. So as we continue to dig into this, a quick thank you to our sponsors. We are so lucky to have such wonderful sponsors to be able to partner on this type of topic. We've got ASA, where we're also similar to others here. I've seen them at these meetings. The Women in Leadership Interest Group is something that ClearlyRated is a sponsor of. So it is one of those things as a company, can you see my slides? I'm hoping. my gosh. Is this going to be the moment that everyone's like, you know, Bridget, if you were to share slides, how about now? You know, again, this is what we like to call a live webinar, right? You know, you are not just looking at my face. Ooh, lucky ladies. Okay, so thank you for this. So we've got ASA as the sponsor. We also have Career Builder and Monster, as well as ClearEdge. Again, looking at some of the different groups, interest groups that each of these organizations are promoting. Look into them. Again, ClearEdge Rising is a huge opportunity for you individually and as companies, and looking at any of the other interest groups through a lot of the different staffing like associations that we have within our industry. So ASA, thank you to everybody here. So as we look at the data that we're going to be sharing today, it's just trying to give you a little bit of a backdrop of really the state of women in staffing and where we're at in 2025. So this is from data that we've gathered within our employee surveys, which includes over 7,000 internal staff responses across 73 firms and 99 brands. It's really over the course of the last 2 years. So we've kind of hit this study now 3 years in a row. And we try to utilize the most current data that we have available, with the most recent really just starting to close up last month. So it's fresh. We're trying to keep this as relevant as possible. So we can see here there's a pretty equal divide across different size companies. So we've got decent distribution between small and mid-sized firms that are included in this. Now, not all firms that we include in our internal employee surveys always turn on the DEI questions, the demographic questions that we have included as a part of our standard, but the majority of them do. So I want to just keep this top of mind that with some of the studies that we have, it's not the entire industry, it's just those that are participating in the internal employee surveys with us. So there's a little bit of comparison that we'll be able to draw from, but it is not inclusive of the entire staffing industry. Got a lot of data, but let's just keep that in mind as we dig into this data further. So as we look into gender identity, so for example, as you look at the green bar, this is where the staffing industry is. So that is what we're representing with those green bars. We've got 67% female in the staffing industry. And when you see this compared to BLS, that outline in kind of a orangish red outline, that's what we're going to be comparing to. What's this against BLS data that we can access? So we are outperforming with females in the staffing industry. So if we were exactly in line with the US workforce, what you would see here is us much closer to the top of those red bars. So we are under that US workforce, is we've got only 30% that are male in the staffing industry, whereas the rest of the workforce is well above 50%. We can see this too when we look at age. Again, those red bars being the BLS comparison. We tend to be significantly less in the 56 and older camp, and significantly higher in the 26 to 40. So we are skewing younger than the overall workforce, which is really important for us to know. Because as we look at different policies that are oftentimes being set by people in that 41 and older range, we need to really consider the decisions that we're making that impact these varying age groups. Because what we're seeing in this data, about 2/3 of employees are under the age of 40. That is a significant difference, and a very different point in your life. So, Michelle, as you react to the high percentage of women in staffing, because you've mentioned that we have removed barriers for entry into this space. Can you expand on that?
Sure. So I mentioned this idea of skills versus proxies, better known as the term most have come to understand as skills-based or skills-first hiring. YUPRO Placement has been doing skills-based hiring for 10 years since its inception. And interestingly, I would think to say our industry is a skills-based hiring industry, right? We are staffing. We all were practicing skills before, it became this movement post-COVID. And why does that matter here? Because women, in particular, the numbers that you're sharing are during years where women may want to build a family, right? And we want to understand, like, what are the careers in the industries that will be really welcoming to, mothers that are working outside of the home, right? I'm very sensitive to the term working mother because we all work in some form or fashion. And so I would say, there's another stat to throw up here is people are surprised to know that the population over age 25, only 34% of the working population over age 25 have a 4-year degree. So what is interesting here is that women are looking for opportunities to build their careers, but may not have an opportunity to go to college and finish a 4-year degree because either they already have children or the cost of college is, insane. And they want to either have children or build their family during these years. And so with us being a skills first industry, many of us kind of fell into this because there is no degree path for staffing. There's a degree path for HR, but there isn't a degree path for the staffing industry itself. And so, we are looking at folks based on their skills and potential in this industry. So it brings some equity into the opportunities for women as we break down that barrier. Because the other stat that we know to be true is that women typically will only apply for a job if they have 100% of the items on that job description, and men will apply if they only have 60. So if there's a degree on a job description that is a non-specialized role and we don't have that, we're like, oh, okay, well, we're not going to be qualified for that. So we don't apply for it, and men do. So there's these barriers we're also putting on ourselves. So I would say, remove the barriers from yourself, look at opportunity. But I think that why this matters is because, women in general are looking for reduced barriers to entry to build a career and build a family. And this is a great industry for working parents.
Oh, you were right. In that statement of removing barriers for yourself, let that one sink in. You need to be an advocate for yourself. And if you are not taking those leaps, if you're not pushing yourself, how is anybody going to even know that's where you want to go if you're not going to share that? Robin, you have mentioned, some differences that have happened, pre-COVID, post-COVID, on how we can support women that are the majority of our industry here, and they're young. What are your thoughts on that topic?
Well, I think pre-COVID, the words work-life balance were barely whispered. And then, of course, everybody was working remotely. And now we're in this post-COVID era where, there's remote, there's in office, and there's hybrid. And I'm an advocate for companies to offer all three of those to their employees so they can meet their employees where they want to be met. And I think over the course of a lifetime, this changes. And there can be a lot of reasons behind that. But the SIA and ASA and TechServe and NAPS came together under the Women's Business Collaborative, recently shared some data that was so powerful. I think SIA actually penned or authored the survey, but 73% of women in staffing identified as a caregiver. Let that sink in, 73%. And so whether that's children, aging parents, and also in that study, the reason women stay in their jobs and women want to stay in their jobs is because their employer is providing flexibility, number one. Flexibility, number one. That's not actually remote. It's not exactly how you work. We know what flexibility is, but it also is paired with opportunity. So women want opportunity. And whatever, I think this is relatively flat industry, right? There's only maybe 10 different categories of jobs. And recruiter, sales, branch manager, area director, and executive, or, area director, VPs. That's only 5. And so you need to be able to create opportunity within each of those jobs, and also compensation that ties to performance. And we are really good at that in this industry. But so women need, and part of why they will leave is if the culture isn't supporting them. And so that communities, it's senior leadership that is super important, but it's also community. 83% of people right now are saying that they are looking for community at work. And you can get community just like we are right now. We're remote and we are like really engaging in our community right here. There's a lot of ways to embrace community, but it's super important, no matter how we work, that we have that kind of community, that we have that kind of support. And that work-life balance, frankly, that flexibility piece is not just for women, not at all. We just had a male candidate who turned down a job because the client, right now, he does childcare drop off and pickup, and he needed flexibility to do that. His current employer offers him that, and this new employer, they did a lot of bending, but they would not, and so he did not take the job. So flexibility, I'm a big advocate of employees for life, and one of the ways you do that is you meet people where they need to be met, and it shows up. And it's not only providing the flexibility, but it's senior leadership embracing it. It's not just, I need to pick up my child at daycare. It's that you're being supported. And frankly, there's a little bit of a go do it, celebrate your, kids' soccer game, and, all these things that honestly, I just think pre-COVID, we weren't having these conversations. And they are such important conversations to be having right now.
Oh, I mean, the flexibility thing and how you are completely correct in how it's not just a benefit to women and to men. 15 minutes before this call, I had a call from my oldest child's school that she's sick and she needed to get picked up. Now, if I didn't have a webinar, I would have been bolting out the door. But I didn't want to keep everybody here hanging. And thankfully, my husband, who also works from home, has flexibility, so he could go and run to the school. It's a benefit we both appreciate. So some of these initiatives not only are beneficial to just caregivers, it's beneficial to everyone. And those are the types of policies that we can continue to see and grow, and we should see growing, that meeting people where they're at, flexibility, leading by example. That I know during COVID, I have young mothers on my team, and if they saw me still somehow being able to juggle kids at home, learning school from an iPad and work, if they did not see that this is how my life is right now, wouldn't feel empowered to be able to take flexibility themselves. So it is a lot of leading by example, providing that, and supporting it. To your point, Robin, those are critical, because actions speak a lot louder than words. Words speak loud too, though. So if you're not saying go get your sick kid from school, so I'll be sanitizing everything as soon as I get off this call. as I really don't want to catch whatever new bug is coming through schools. Okay, so as we continue to look further into this data, we're talking about women today in the space. We want to look how this breaks out between white women and women of color. So here you can see 21% of our industry is women of color. In many ways, the real work is in protecting what we've gained here, and continuing to be an advocate for what's still ahead, as 47% are white women. Both of those are significantly higher than the BLS workforce estimates. And you can see here, white men, when we're looking at our men of color, white men, our men of color are really, pretty close to the US workforce. But the percentage of white men in the industry is significantly lower again. And this is looking at our internal employees. So knowing that we have far more women of color in our industry, it's not hard to immediately think about DEI and how the spotlight on DEI is going to make an impact in our industry. So how can we protect and support without putting our companies and our clients at risk? I'll be transparent. This is where I really have to thank the panelists for joining this webinar. As I had a previous panelist that wasn't able to participate, their legal department denied the request to join due to being cautious about speaking on this matter. So there are real concerns happening right now for our peers. It could be happening within your company. This hesitation of what is the right next step? How do I continue to support my current initiatives or launch new in kind of this climate that we're all feeling as soon as you flip on your TV or read news. So this is where I would love to hear from you, Leslie, your reaction, and really how have you been providing support on this front?
Sure. Thank you, Bridget. And listen, I really appreciate this question because the answer is yes, we are seeing shifts in DE&I. Some of it's clear and you can see it. So we've heard of budgets being cut, roles being eliminated, and other times it's really more subtle. So it could be an ERG fading, or a diversity council goes quiet, or leaders just stop talking about equity altogether. And yes, there are some legal concerns. There's external pressure. There's fear around saying the wrong thing. There are so many unknowns that's really partially what's driving the fear. So we're leading in this fact versus fiction world right now, where there's a lot of unknown or fiction that's driving the fear. And unfortunately, if that is what's driving decision making, we risk really doing more harm by going silent. So to your point, we're really working with companies to protect. We definitely don't want to move backwards. We had the pandemic hurt women, this current climate hurting women, I'm sure, and DEI overall. So what can we do together to really protect what has been done for generations before us so we can protect that for the future? And in some cases, really kind of reimagine how DEI shows up in the workplace or in your everyday life. So, we have some clients who proudly position themselves as diversity staffing suppliers, and we've helped some who've had to tweak their messaging to protect their business. But one thing I will say is they aren't wavering, and I mean not wavering on their values. But if we don't protect our businesses, we won't be there on the other side, and it puts everything we've done to date at risk. And we need those voices on the other side when the tides change again, and they will change again. It doesn't change who companies are, who people are, and what they do as a company or as people. And that's, to me, what really matters. And we have to remember that staffing industries, as Robin said earlier, we're servicing companies who are impacted by this change and understanding what they're going through. So asking them, when you're working with someone who's funded by the government or who's a nonprofit, different sectors, who are being impacted, ask them how they're being impacted, educate yourself and understand what you can do to support them. So to me, the question, Bridget, really becomes, what do we still have control over, and what small, meaningful actions can we still take, even if formal programs change? Because remember, DEI doesn't just live in policies. It's how we live. It's literally how we show up today, every single day, to this webinar, what we do. So just because policies may change or things may change, that doesn't mean you can't still be a connector. That doesn't mean you can't be an advocate for someone. If you notice that you're in a room and there aren't underrepresented voices at the table, bring them to the table. It doesn't take a policy to do that. Flexibility, we just talked a lot about that. It's a big one. It's really important for working moms and caregivers. And again, Robin, as you said, in the one study, 73% working moms, that's a big percentage of people who really value flexibility. And the data is clear. It's inclusive, flexible work environments. They lead to better outcomes and retention. So it's not just a perk, and it's not just about DE&I. It is an inclusion strategy that you can have in place, but it doesn't take a policy of DEI to make you do that. And finally, again, visibility, like events today, but even mentoring, speaking up, using your platform to amplify others. You don't have to have a program to do that. You have to live it every day in how you show up. And remember that that doesn't need to go away. You don't need to change your values or who you are, or how you show up for things when the world is, changing around you. You can stick to what is to be best. And progress, it's not always linear, but leadership is about how we show up in the hard seasons. And to me, it's kind of feeling like a hard season right now. So I have to think about that. How do I show up as a leader to my team, to our clients, to the industry at large? If I all of a sudden went silent on this, I'm not showing up during those hard seasons. I'm kind of brushing it aside, and that doesn't bode well with my own core values. So when you think about the companies you're at, it's really important. And I will say, you kind of know in your gut about the company you're at, right? You have to decide if they share your values and whether or not it's the right company for you. But more than likely, a year ago, today, a year from now, those values of the executive team, the leadership team, and the core DNA of the company potentially haven't changed and are what they are. So you have to know in your core values, do they hit on what they are? And if they do, fantastic. If they don't, it's a personal decision. Is it something that you can live with and stay, or something that you need to explore to move on?
Oh my gosh, Leslie, there was just, I'm not sure what to react to first, as there was so many wonderful points that you've made in that. Showing up isn't a policy. That to me is so critical, because you're right. You need to live what's the truth for you. And showing up isn't going to in the way that makes you the most comfortable as we continue to change and navigate some uncertainty here. And being able to navigate, in some ways, being kind of a smaller company like YUPRO, this is where, Michelle, being nimble, how does that come to your advantage when navigating some of these changes that are happening in the US?
Yeah. Well, first and foremost, we don't have a choice but to show up for our talent in the mission that we serve. And many of our nonprofit organizations we support, some of them are losing their funding or have been told that they are going to lose their funding. And so talent that we support need our voice and our advocacy more than ever. And we have to show up. And we're small and we're nimble and we can pivot, but to Leslie's point, our mission and our vision of what we are truly grounded in can't change. Now, how we support the organizations, we can pivot, but still advocate for our talent in a very skills first, skills forward manner. And that's not political. right? Like if we're supporting our talent and our mission in the manner that we are supposed to, then we're just doing right by people and showing up. And so, that's what we're staying grounded in is how we show up. But I think we are still going to remove barriers. We are still going to say the words innovative and diverse workforce. I don't care what the New York Times puts out. It is not going to change the mission that we serve and the talent that we support. Now, I also have to decide as a CEO, like, do I want to be right or do I want to make impact? Like, that's a big choice, and I'm going to choose impact. And I say that because that's where the real work is. If you choose impact and stay aligned with impact, then I think the promise that you make to yourself and the promise that you make to folks that you serve will get on the other side of this. But yeah, I think that a lot of organizations are going to have to figure out like how to stay committed, but maybe do it differently. And as long as those values and what you decide you're going to serve, stay grounded in it. I mean, I know it's hard. It's harder said than done. And, all three of us run, women-led organizations. And we don't want to be targets to anything. We want to do good work and support people. And I don't think, you need to write a policy on that, to y'all's point.
Oh, impact, stay the course. It is. You've developed this already. So do not get distracted by what noise is happening. Robin, anything to add? This is a hard one not to get insights from all three of you. As CEOs of firms, these are incredibly impactful numbers and initiatives. So I want to give you an opportunity to share your thoughts as well.
I'm inspired by Leslie and Michelle, and you too, Bridget, but I'm inspired around, being focused on impact, Michelle, and being focused on, and not wavering on your core values. Because how we show up and how we lead our organizations, people are watching. And we also, but we were doing that before, right this minute. We were doing that last month, last year, the year before that, in support of rising everyone. And I'm just so, I think that check the box that we just have to keep having these conversations. We can't stop having them because they're so important.
It's that as soon as the conversation stops, we have all we're all failing, not just ourselves. We are not doing a service for those women that are rising the ranks right now. We know we've got a young industry, and it is primarily women. And it would be criminal for us to change our direction when we have the majority of women working within the staffing industry. So that alone, yeah, Robin.
Well, I also want to just say that the work that we do is so important. We are putting people to work at a time when, a lot of people are unemployed, and we haven't even, these numbers are rising. So the work that we do is as important or more important than it's ever been. So we can't go away. We have to continue, yes, this work, but also just our core work of putting people to work one job at a time.
Yes. The impacts of what staffing firms, the industry has on the entire workforce is immeasurable. It's there. It is happening. Phenomenal point. I think we could spend another 30 minutes on this slide alone, which I'm going to move us forward. So as we look at leadership positions, what we find in our industry, so as we look at the entire workforce here at 35%. So when we look at our industry of white women that make this up, we've got nearly 47%, which if you would expect there was perfect equity, we have perfect equity in the staffing industry, you would assume that we would have 47% across director and executive positions. So what we see here is that holds fairly true for the director and director roles. It's where we go to executive, it does drop a bit. So if the entire workforce, though, is at 35%, we are well above that for us. But if we are looking for equity in staffing, we should be looking at 47% across all levels of our firms. And then when we look at women in color in leadership roles, right? So we've got, this is where we see a little bit of a drop off. If we've got 21% of women of color in the industry, we only have 9% at director level or executive roles. So it's important to know that we were probably underestimating the actual issue in the industry because of our data set. Even though it's probably the best data we have of this kind, it's still not perfect. Why? Well, because the people that are participating in the best of staffing internal employee surveys tend to be the firms that care about these issues, that care about equity, that care about inclusion. So I will say, though, if you happen to measure this on your own and you want your data included, let me know. More data is always helpful. But if we were to look at the overall industry, my analyst would guess the figures would be a little bit lower across this board. So this looks good for everybody that we had participate, but most likely these numbers are lower across the whole staffing industry. And in past years, we've seen that executive level for women is around 33%. So there's something really to keep track here that we're looking at increasing women in leadership roles. How can we remove those barriers? What is holding us back? Something is, we should see perfect equity across, right? If we're playing that numbers game and we're behind. Robin, how can we remove those barriers? What's holding us back?
Well, I thought about this question as it relates to me personally, the people the women in my organization, the people that I work with, because all of my whole community is staffing. And, we have to, number one, we have to have support. We have to have support in our lives at home and at work, because none of us do any of this by ourselves. Bridget, you just said your kid's sick and you're doing a webinar and your husband has flexibility and he's picking up the kid, right? I mean, I could not have started my business 37 years ago if I didn't have support at home from my husband and, have continued to all along the way. And also, the building of your network is critical. I mean, Leslie, you talked about how Rising has been so amazing for community building and relationship building. It is so important to have a network because, we need people to talk to. We need people to bounce things off of. We need people to role play with. I mean, we also have to use our voices internally and externally. So we speak up. I mean, nobody in your organization knows what your goals and objectives are if you don't tell them. And if you don't build the confidence muscle to be able to ask for that raise or ask for that promotion or find out what you need to do to be promoted, like what metrics do you need to hit to get to that next level? And does that exist in your organization? And what kind of professional training and development do you need to be able to elevate? And we need to be able to see that internally, and if we can't see it internally, we need to look for it externally. But we also have to, this whole idea of sponsors and mentors, and frankly, until I got involved with women in leadership, did I even understand the difference between the two? But a sponsor is somebody who's going to not just promote you, but also advocate for you when you're out of the room. They are going to, and often these are allies, and often these are male allies, but they are building a relationship internally. And I'll be honest with you guys, I don't know if I ever had a sponsor, but I realize that I've had many mentors along the way. And I take that back. I have had sponsors. And you know, an immediate one just comes right to mind and it's putting a big smile on my face. But the network of people who, because you know, you're only going to have a couple sponsors, but these mentors who often are not official. They're not people that claim they're going to be your mentor, but they end up becoming your mentor, and or you become a mentor to others. And we weave this, you know, I have found myself that I have been able to weave that in and out of my career in such meaningful ways. I mean, Leslie, you're a mentor. And, you know, Michelle, you are, you know, you are as well. And we just support, and we need each other because we learn as we go. So this constant learning and development. And I think that's really important for advancing into next levels. And guess what, guys? Not everybody wants to be an executive. I mean, I think you have to really take stock of what you want, you need, and it is going to change over the course of your career. And not everybody wants or needs that. But to have that kind of self-awareness over the course of your career so that you can live your best life, both in and out of work, so that you can, you know, ultimately feel like you've had this fabulous career, no matter what level you end up being most fulfilled at. And it doesn't have to be an executive, and it is not an executive for everyone. So, you know, there's lots of things, but part of it is, you know, also building that confidence muscle. And part of that is just doing. Leslie knows that public speaking is not my favorite thing, but I got on a stage in front of 1,000 people last week at Exec Forum, and I was very confident once I got up there. Did I have 3 months of anxiety? Did that elevate me personally? I mean, like in terms of confidence, absolutely. So, you know, saying yes, showing up, being present, but doing that in the, you know, in the context of you, not anybody else. You know, this comparison, not comparing yourself to anybody else, but just like figuring it out for yourself so that you can, again, be your best self in and out of work.
Oh, Robin, the transparency alone of and vulnerability of saying this was intimidating, that hearing those words is helpful. Just being able to say, "Boy, this is going to scare me," and then doing it. I'm going to be cautious of time because I could sit and ask you all questions so much that I'm going to kind of speed through this because we have 6 minutes left of our session. It just goes to show you when you have such inspiring women in leadership like these panelists, the amount of valuable information that you're going to get is incredible. So I hope you're all walking away feeling inspired and also understanding where you want to be. Where are your goals for today and, you know, in 5 years? Things change. Okay, so as we were looking at those leadership roles, how this starts to break out in men in staffing. So if we have 21% of the staffing industry is white men, that should be then the same across all of these different leadership roles. What we see is not that. Who's surprised? Glad we were all sitting down for that. That we are seeing really, it's aligning really to the US workforce for those that identify as white men. The percentage of executives are nearly double. So what is happening? And these are within those firms that are really trying to be leaders within DEI initiatives. There's even, right? So this is going to be even skewed more so within the entire staffing industry. When we go a little deeper, we see is on BIPOC males. It holds pretty steady as we look through those different levels of leadership. So a little bit of a drop at the executive level, but if you're a white woman or a Black man, you have a pretty good path to that director level. It does drop off at the executive, but if you're a woman of color, you have significantly less opportunity, or you're not able to take advantage of that opportunity. So pure white man, definitely have some advantages in terms of the likelihood you'll end up in that executive role. Leslie, this is where you have so much insight on how we can attract, clearly, women into the staffing industry. We've got that. But with the majority of the executives being white men, what are some strategies that we can utilize to help elevate them to the next level?
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bridget. And Joy, I just want to give you a shout out who's here and very active in the chat. Joy, you show up every single time with so much energy and love. I just want to say thank you. So thank you for being here, and thank you to everyone who have been here. I just want to say it's true. I love looking at these stats because, quite frankly, and you're right, Bridget, they're probably off a little bit when we look at the WBC data that combines all of the associations coming together. In the past, it was 22% women in the C-suite and 4% women of color in the C-suite. So I have to say, like, this is encouraging. We've made progress of attracting women into the industry. And to Robin's point, not everyone wants to be in the C-suite. I kind of made a mistake as a leader, assuming people did, and would try to constantly rise them up until I slowed down to realize they don't always want it. And then sometimes when they get there, they don't love it. It's not for everyone. So we have to be, aware of that. But when you look at the state, there's still, the stats are still a long way to go. And we have to be intentional about development and visibility. So one of the most effective strategies is investing in professional development of your teams. And that really is to combine the skill building and coaching. We need that confidence work, that career navigation work. It's a lot of what we talked about earlier with Rising, but giving women not just the tools, but they need the support systems, the peers around them, people they can learn from to show what they're fully capable of owning and growing into. I have to jump here in a second for a WOCUS, Women of Color and Staffing event. There's groups like WOCUS, ASA's Women in Leadership, TechServe is a wonderful women's group in Luncheon. There's a lot of different peer networks where you can create these powerful spaces where women can grow. They can share the strategies that aren't always offered on those traditional paths of learning and development. But these next two things, we've said them already today. I'm going to say them again because we need to talk about it all the time. First of all, for the men on the call, there aren't many, but there are some. Thank you for showing up. A key to what we need to do to get to the next level is sponsorship and not just mentorship. Robin, you talked about it. If anyone doesn't believe that they have a sponsor, so this is people who advocate in the room when you're not in the room. We needed another speaker for this. I reached right out to Michelle. I put her name out there. That is sponsorship. We're here to help each other progress in what they're doing. Don't wait to be discovered by someone. If you wait, you will not get that opportunity. If you don't know how to ask for a sponsor, please connect with any one of us. We will help you. We will encourage you. And the men in the room, they're more likely in the room than we are. So look for male sponsors and try to help them get you, they're our most powerful ally and sponsor. So again, if you don't think you have one or you're not sure how to get a sponsor, because it's really what happens when you're not in the room that makes a big difference for promotions, lean on me. I will help you. I will coach you, whatever you need. Sponsors are key. And finally, confidence. It's critical. Too often women wait, we've talked about it, until they check the box to raise their hand. If you want that next opportunity, please make it be known. Don't assume that your ambition is obvious. Communicate it. Self-advocacy is a leadership skill. Again, if you need help honing that, getting coaching, join a peer cohort. There are so many resources in this industry. I have to say, be your own best champion. This is in your control. You can control this. You can control that next opportunity. You have to take that control and own it. If you're not sure where to get started, there are resources where we can help you. The reality is the system, it's not designed to elevate you. It's not designed to elevate me or any of us who are women here on this call. We have to take intentional steps to rise through it. And the more we can do that together and to help each other, then the more we'll be able to really change the face of the leadership in this industry. I do apologize. I have to drop for the WOCUS call. Bridget, thank you for having me. Thank you everyone for joining. Love you all. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Happy
Leslie.
Women's History Month. Bye.
If anyone has to go, this is what happens. We are juggling multiple commitments. So this is, again, to my other two panelists, to Robin and Michelle, I've already taken a huge chunk of your week. So if you have to leave, I understand, and I will continue on. And any participant, anyone that's here in the audience, if you have to go, it's getting recorded. I'll finish it off and I'll be able to send it out. So just wanted to put that out there as
Bridget, I hate to do it, but I've got to go too. I've got a client meeting. Thank you so much. I look forward to the next one. We got more to cover.
I love it. Thank you, Robin. Yeah,
Thanks.
This is the reality of this month, right? We will see it happening live, that we've got additional commitments, and it does not hurt any feelings here, because I appreciate all of the insights that we've already gotten. Then just Michelle turns into the hot seat.
We'll take it home. It's all good.
We will take it home. So I promise this is the last slide of data that we will be sharing. So when we come back down to this, the other aspect to consider is that we women, we have significantly different experiences than our male counterparts. When we're looking at the data, women are 44% more likely to be detractors. So this was within those employee surveys. This is what we were getting. They're more likely to be detractors. 49% are more likely to feel that they aren't being paid fairly, and 31% are more likely to believe that promotions aren't just based on merit alone. Now, one of the things that this brings up, when you're getting a survey, when you're receiving a survey, and it is asking you if you're getting paid fairly, that does evoke a very strong feeling in any direction. So you will respond in kind. So with pay equity in particular, there are definite examples of companies of different sizes that make an impact. There was a study released out in 2018 where Salesforce reviewed all of their salaries, and they had been a growing company like crazy and realized they had so many corrections to make due to pay that they had a $2 million problem of folks doing same jobs, not getting paid the same. And they continued to run this then year after year, still finding probably about another $1 million, I think, in the following year of pay corrections that they needed to do. So if there's strong examples of things like this, it's happening. It is a thing. We know pay equity is an issue. And this is where Michelle, I know for sure, has been navigating these issues and has different tactics just to really keep monitoring and addressing this. I'd love, Michelle, if you have a couple minutes, couple thoughts to be able to add to this.
I mean, I think all of these things, you know, in staffing, we have all of these SOPs, right? We have an SOP for account management and an SOP for how we reach out in sales. We have all these operational SOPs. But I have found in my career that many staffing companies are missing SOPs internally for how they deal with pay equity, how they are monitoring pay, you know, competitively and internally. And that was not any different from when I joined the organization as CEO 5 years ago. The entire organization was paid under market. It was a little mortifying. And then I was also had this moment of being grateful that they didn't leave the organization because they were paid, you know, in some cases $10,000 and $20,000 and $30,000 under what the industry was paying. That was my reality walking in. And so we had to put some equity programs in place that we coined equity bumps. And so challenged the organization to grow, which was, I started 10 days before COVID hit. So, you know, that was, those words don't go together. So over 2 years, we put some goals together to build in growth that would align directly to getting all of our salary bands. We created salary bands and then got all the salary bands to a competitive rate, but then you have to keep them there. And, you know, pay rates go up, and we had some pay inflation, you know, coming out of COVID, and now that's normalizing a bit more. But we have a best practice that anytime we hire externally, we look at what that pay needs to be based on what the current band is. And if we need to bump that up because we need to pay competitively from an external perspective, we look at where those folks are at they're in a comparable position, and we increase internally up to bridge that gap so that we are consistently looking at equity both internally and how we hire externally. So that's one piece. But the other piece is I did away with pay increases with performance reviews. There is a ton of study on the bias of performance reviews and scores that align with self-inflation and bosses and peers being friends, or bosses, not liking conflict. And so if you design pay increases based on performance scores, you actually get subjective and biased performance reviews. So I immediately did away with pay aligned to performance reviews. We look at what our budget and our growth and our sustainability can handle, and every single person in the organization gets the same pay increase on an annual basis. And then from there, you can earn a promotion, or you can earn more through our bonus plans. We have other types of incentives, but I removed that particular equity because I don't see that as equitable. And there's studies to back it up. So, but most big enterprise organizations and most staffing companies align their performance review score with what the tier is and what they're going to. So who's not going to say they're better than they are? Give me a break. And we all know we're great, but let's be real. We're going to inflate it because I want a 5%, not a 3%. And if your boss likes you maybe a little bit more than somebody else, they're going to give you a score. We're all guilty of it at some point, right? And so removing those types of biases in your standard operating procedures can really make a difference, so that your team knows that the recruiter sitting right next to them isn't being paid more, because frankly, when people think the people around them are being paid more, they're less productive because they're more worried about the inequity. And so where we are, they don't have to worry about whether their peer gets paid more, because they don't. So we remove that barrier to productivity and drama, because there's just not a big place for it. So
Michelle, that was being able just to remove that uncertainty, because when you if you feel there's unfairness and there's question marks about, is my peer making $30,000 more or less? We're doing the same job. When you remove that as a question mark, you're able to move forward without that distraction. To your point, there's so many companies I've been that I've worked at personally where I know, okay, there's only going to be 2 people on this team. They're going to be 5s. The rest are all going to be in the middle bucket. We're not all going to be there, and there's bias.
Oh, I know. I mean, then when you become aware, it's all happened to all of us. You become aware somebody's making more than you, and there's this subjective feeling, and you get all, upset about it, and you've got this emotion. Because the only way that sometimes folks feel value is what they're being paid. And so if you can remove that, uncertainty in that, then you can have a real conversation about performance and goals and career path and those types of things, right? So
right.
It seems to be working.
Yeah, decoupling that performance review and raise, that really does then get to focus on where are you going and where do you want to be. That this isn't the only opportunity or avenue for you to get an increase in your comp. You have other incentives, you have other things based on you as an individual versus I've got to battle this out for top on my team so I can get the most. That is a really wonderful strategy. I think over time we'll need to continue to hear how that evolves, because you are consistently trying to remove bias from this process of hiring and promoting and retaining your talent. So it is, look at this. I made it to the last slide here of where half of the panelists, we needed to go because of other commitments. It is a huge honor to be able to share this this time with all of you. With Michelle, thank you for being able to stay on longer, and anyone that has been able to continue to listen in. I really appreciate. This is just such a topic that is near and dear to my heart and all of the panelists that we had today. There's a lot of resources out there, so make sure you're showing up. If you see something, say something. Men in leadership can offer, you can be a mentor, right? Use your allies, work closely with each other. If you've submitted any questions, I will share those with panelists after. Anything that we can do to help encourage, empower your career, your firm, the way you show up. That's just it. The way you show up isn't a policy. So continue to dive deep into what is it that matters the most to you. So thank you all. Thank you again. If you want, I love QR codes. They're just like everywhere now. Go see YUPRO Placements on this list. And a huge congratulations, Michelle, and a thank you. I really am inspired by the things that you are doing, the way that you lead, the way that you show up, and could not have done this without your insights, your guidance. It is an inspiring room to be around. So I am going to gush with all of my gratitude. So thank you so much. Thank you to everyone for participating, carving out time. Hang in there. We're stronger together. So continue to speak up, especially for those that are not in the room. Thank you, everyone, and have a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.